While provinces like Judea, Gaul, or Hispania typically rebelled to break away from Roman rule, Britain's uprisings followed a different logic. When a commander on this island frontier revolted, he wasn't looking to leave the empire, he was looking to lead it. Curious, this ambition presents a historical paradox. Britain was a remote, windswept island at the absolute edge of the known world, lacking the vast agricultural wealth of Egypt or the financial networks of Asia Minor. Yet it became the empire's most prolific factory for imperial claimants. The cause was a structural flaw at the heart of the Roman state, the lack of a fixed law of succession. Legitimacy ultimately rested on the loyalty of the army rather than the decree of the Senate. Each time an emperor died, a power vacuum opened, shifting the decision of who would rule next directly to the regional legions. Without a clear heir, commanders competed to secure their troops' allegiance first, turning frontier defenders into rival political factions. Because the throne belonged to whoever held the most concentrated military force, Britain, despite its geographic obscurity, was perfectly positioned to exploit the instability of these imperial transitions. Physical distance defined the province's relationship with the capital. Separated by the Channel and the vast landscape of Gaul, news or orders from Rome could take weeks or even months to arrive in Britain. This information lag granted British governors an unusual degree of autonomy. A commander could declare himself emperor and begin mobilizing his forces before word of a crisis even reached the capital, justifying his actions as a necessary step to preserve order on the island. Maintaining that order required a massive commitment of resources. Roman control was never total, and the constant northern threat from unconquered tribes forced the empire to build an immense infrastructure of forts and walls to hold the frontier. Rome concentrated enormous manpower. The province garrisoned 3 legions, placing 30,000 soldiers under one governor. On the Rhine, similar numbers were spread across thousands of kilometers as a thin line, whereas Britain's forces remained in dense hubs, ready to move as a unified force. The combination of extreme political isolation and this dense, unified military force created a potent weapon that could be easily aimed back at the heart of the empire. Over time, the nature of this military force shifted. Early Roman policy deliberately stationed legions far from their homelands to prevent regional attachments. But by the 3rd century, the empire was forced to rely on localized recruitment. Soldiers in Britain became permanent settlers rather than temporary garrisons. They raised families near the forts, received local land upon retirement, and saw their sons enlist in the same units, intertwining military with civilian life. These military communities developed an identity rooted in British soil rather than Mediterranean politics. Their primary loyalty was to the local commanders who provided their pay and protected their homes. When an army in Britain proclaimed their commander emperor, they functioned as a cohesive regional society. Their support was a pragmatic move to secure the interests of the local military-civilian network that had become their entire world. Britain's economic position was uniquely suited for rebellion. The island was agriculturally self-sufficient and possessed its own mines, allowing it to function as a breakaway state. However, because it didn't provide the vital grain supplies that Rome's survival depended on, the central government often hesitated to launch an immediate, costly retaliation. That hesitation was reinforced by the geography of the English Channel, granting the province a defensive depth no land-based frontier could match. This forced Rome to coordinate complex naval invasions just to reach a rebel claimant. With the Classis Britannica, the regional fleet, at his disposal, a usurper controlled access to the island. He could seal his borders, consolidate resources in safety, and choose the exact moment to cross into Gaul. These logistical advantages established Britain as a self-funded island fortress. It was a secure incubator where a commander could build strength before launching a serious bid for the throne. By the late 4th and early 5th centuries, the Western Roman Empire was fracturing. Central authority in Ravenna was failing to halt barbarian incursions along the Rhine, and provincial security was collapsing. Commanders in Britain responded by leaning on a long-established tradition. Centuries of previous rebellions had normalized the idea that the island's legions could and should intervene in imperial politics when the center was weak. Claimants like Clodius Albinus stepped into this void with veteran legions at their back. They saw themselves as the only authority figures capable of stabilizing the West, using the power of the British military to fill the space left by a retreating central government. The frequency of these rebellions followed a clear logic. They functioned as the predictable output of a fragile imperial succession system colliding with Britain's uniquely isolated military command. In their effort to hold the edge of the world, Rome created a province that was too militarily self-sufficient and too geographically secure. They built Britain too well, inadvertently designing a machine that was perfectly equipped to conquer Rome itself.